What is up, Team ProGuides? Christoph here to run you guys through all the changes for patch 10.14. We've got a ton of nerfs and buffs across every single role that we're going to help you guys go through so that you can improve in your games. But before we get into the video, I just wanted to say something about what has been going on in the gaming community around mental health. So as many of you may not have known, we lost Reckful the other day. Reckful was an incredible streamer. He's somebody that I used to watch religiously for years as I was playing Hearthstone a lot. And to be honest, his news has been very hard the past couple days for myself and for a lot of my friends, and I know for a lot of you guys as well. I started watching this guy named Dr. K, or as many of you guys might know him, The Healthy Gamer. I highly recommend you watch him if you haven't. He deals with a lot of these mental health issues with gamers throughout the entire community, and he actually has a video or a couple videos with Reckful. He said, quote, "Depression is not a single-player game, it's a multiplayer game." What he means by this is we need community, we need people in our lives. If this is something that you are more interested in, I highly recommend you check out Healthy Gamer GG on YouTube. And if you're feeling alone or if you don't have friends, you can join our ProGuides Discord for any of our games. If you're really into Valorant right now, join our Valorant Discord. If you're really into League, join our League Discord. You'll have a lot of like-minded people there who are super positive. We actually do have one of the most positive communities in gaming. All of us just want to improve, we want to get better, and if this is what you want to, please join us. We'd love to have you. And this leads me into my question of the day. What are you guys going to do this summer to give yourself some more health and balance in your life? I'm personally going to go on more walks. Exercise is really important for the body, and a lot of the times I neglect it. So when I'm done with a game, I'm just going to go out and walk. I might listen to some audiobooks just to educate myself some more. I think as competitive gamers, we're all really striving to improve, and we neglect sometimes the fact that balance can help us improve in gaming as well. This has been a real tragedy in the gaming community. It's personally affected me, and I just hope that everyone can get through this and that Reckful's death sheds some light on something that's very important today. With that being said, let's get into the video. Starting off with the skins, we've got a variety of them, and the first ones we want to mention are the Arcanist, Kog'Maw, Shaco, and Zoe skins. These skins have a magical touch to them, a little bit of elegance even. Some other skins we've got are Conqueror Nautilus and 3 Infernal skins, Karthus, Kennen, and Vel'Koz. All of these skins are really cute. I suggest you guys check them out because, like always, it's clear that the skins team at Riot is putting in a lot of effort, and they're actually doing a really good job. Next up, let's talk about systems. First up for systems is Summoner Ghost. The movement speed bonus has been boosted from 20 to 40% to 24 to 48%. Summoner Ghost definitely got buffed when they changed it on patch 10.12, but it's not producing the results that Riot wanted to see. Thus, they've decided to give it a little bit of love and make sure it's performing at the level it should be. I expect this buff to make control mages as well as bruisers, who like to run it, even stronger than before. For those of you who haven't played in a while, Summoner Ghost actually had its ramp-up time removed altogether a couple of patches ago. As soon as you cast it, you're at full speed, and as a result, the movement speed was lowered slightly and the cooldown increased. These buffs compensate for the fact that Riot may have removed a little bit too much movement speed from it. Next up is Predator. A lot of players have expressed their concerns with this keystone, stating that they believe it's objectively weaker than before. In terms of damage, this is absolutely true. Riot agrees with this partially as they've decided to buff the keystone this patch. The damage has gone up from 30 to 90 to 40 to 120, while the cooldown has been reduced from 100 to 70 to 90 to 60. This should incentivize more players to start running it. As a result of this buff, the cooldown on Predator is extremely low, meaning that players should be able to effectively gank or rotate through the map with it. That covers the system changes, so let's hop into the champion balance changes, starting with the top lane. The first top lane change we want to cover is a buff to Riven. Yes, you heard it right, Riven is getting buffed. But before you pull your pitchforks out, I'm actually going to take Riot's side here. I'm not the biggest fan of playing against her, but she's been underperforming statistically, especially in low elo. Riven's win rates in Diamond to Grandmaster are positive, but in Challenger and in Platinum and below, they're below 50%. Naturally, the lower you go, the lower her win rate is. However, the fact that a high skill ceiling champion like her can't find success in Challenger levels of play might signal that she's a bit too weak. The buff is a rather small one. Her passive's bonus damage has been buffed from 25 to 50% total AD to 30 to 60% total AD. Our analysts believe that this buff will help her more in high elo than in low elo. For a win rate in higher elo, to see noticeable changes, she'll need some bigger buffs. Thus, we're going to be keeping her in the A tier for now. Champion with a ton of potential, but not necessarily a champion you should look to auto-lock every game. Next up, we have Wukong. However, the Monkey King is receiving a nerf, not a buff. His ultimate's knock-up duration has been reduced from 0.75 seconds to 0.6 seconds. Wukong has been performing way too well, especially in the top lane. He deals a ton of damage, is pretty tanky, and has his ultimate as well. This nerf doesn't hit his damage, but instead targets his utility. Wukong definitely needed some sort of nerf, and this is the approach that Riot has decided to take with him. Remember that Wukong can use his ult twice, so this nerf is a bit bigger than it looks. For now, our analysts still believe that Wukong will be an S+ tier pick, but he might drop into the S tier. Make sure to check out our mid-patch update next week to see if this nerf was enough or not. Finally, Volibear is also receiving a nerf. I honestly thought this was quite necessary. I've been demolished by him in most games. While this nerf is more focused on his presence as a jungler, we'll just include him here in the top lane section since he's played pretty well here. Volibear's base attack speed has been reduced from 0.66 to 0.625, and his healing from monsters from 100% to 50%. This hurts Volibear in both roles for sure. Attack speed nerfs mean that Volibear will not only clear the jungle slower than before, but also feel a bit weaker when taking extended skirmishes against his opponents. He's going to also feel a little clunkier as naturally he's attacking slower than before. Less healing from monsters means that Volibear will end up getting a little lower from jungle clears. For you top laners that like taking Rift Scuttlers, this also means that you won't be able to heal off them as much as you did before. This nerf does feel substantial enough to move Volibear into the S tier. Well, actually, a better way to put it would be that Volibear was barely an S+ tier pick. He's OP and still will be, but this small nerf should drop him down a bit. Next up, let's talk about the other changes to our tier list. We've moved Aatrox down to the C tier. Our analysts predicted the Conqueror nerf's last patch would hit him, but his win rates have continued to drop slowly. Aatrox still has a small place in the meta, but he's not as dominant of a pick as many of the other bruisers up there are. Dedicated players can still make him work, for sure, but if you're actively searching for someone to play, you're better off trying other champions. In our S+ tier, we have Darius, Fiora, Wukong, and Garen. Of these champions, Garen is finding the most success across all ranks. His high damage output and simplicity translate well into the current meta. While he's very straightforward and one-dimensional, this is ironically what makes him so good right now. Making sure that your damage is reliable is essential, and you can't really mess things up when playing Garen. Our S tier consists of Volibear, Mordekaiser, Kled, Jax, Urgot, Nasus, Singed, and Maokai. Hecarim was a very close contender considering the fact that Summoner Ghost received a buff. The reason why they aren't confident they can push him up is Hecarim's small sample size of games. While I've seen Hecarim absolutely dominate games and felt his oppressive force take over their own games, how something makes you feel is completely different than how strong something actually is. For example, Dr. Mundo's ultimate might feel like the most broken thing ever when he's fed and 1v5ing your team, but it's hard to say someone like him is OP when you can build grievous wounds to counter him. In Hecarim's case, there's a lot of champions that do very well into him, and he's pretty sensitive to jungle pressure as he doesn't run flash. Darius is looking stronger in the top lane this patch as well because of those Summoner Ghost buffs. However, be warned that you should practice him a bit before hopping into Ranked. Our analysts do believe he's one of the strongest champions in the game, but he's actually not finding an immense amount of success in gold and lower. If he doesn't work for you, definitely give other picks a try like Garen, Urgot, or even Quinn. Alright guys, that's it for the top lane. Let's head into the jungle changes next. The first jungle change we want to run you guys through is to Trundle. Trundle's W bonus attack speed has been reduced from 30 to 100% to 20 to 100%. He's been doing too well against champions he wasn't necessarily designed to counter. While Trundle is a strong duelist, it felt like he overperforms against other champions that are looking for early skirmishes. Instead, Trundle is supposed to be a situational pick that destroys tanks specifically. Riot wants to further establish this by taking away some early game attack speed from him, meaning that a lot of matchups against early game junglers are going to change. Our analysts have moved Trundle down to the B tier as a result, as it seems more appropriate at the moment. Trundle isn't always a strong pick, but he's definitely one of the best under certain circumstances. Next up are buffs in the jungle. Let's start off with Kha'Zix. His base health was increased from 572.8 to 575. While his Q's isolation multiplier was increased from 2 to 2.2, what this buff does is it increases Kha'Zix's jungle clear speed, neutral objective control, and pick-making power. Like Riven, I know a lot of players aren't happy with him receiving buffs, but once again, he hasn't been performing very well either. Across all ranks, Kha'Zix held a 48% win rate last patch, indicating that he might need some assistance. Kha'Zix is supposed to thrive off of uncoordinated chaotic play. This is exactly what solo queue is, and the fact that his win rate is so low implies that he might actually be a little bit too weak. Let's just hope that this doesn't suddenly make him OP, and our analysts want to keep Kha'Zix in the A tier, but say that he might make that push to S tier in high elo. We'll just wait and see. For a lot of you guys who are junglers and want to carry your games, I do actually recommend Kha'Zix. He is kind of hard to play at first. It probably takes him about 15 to 20 games, I would say, to actually start to get the hang of him in a round, to play at a silver or gold level. If you are serious about climbing, then definitely pick up Kha'Zix. We can help you over at ProGuides. You can download our app or go to ProGuides.com and find a Kha'Zix specialist to help you out and help you master him. There's a bunch of small details about Kha'Zix and some other champions that might be difficult for you to learn. You can find your resources on ProGuides if you need help. The final buff we want to talk about in the jungle is to Sejuani. The damage on her E has gone from 40 to 240 to 55 to 255. Cooldown reduced from 10 to 8 to 8 flat. Christmas has come early for Sejuani players because they've had their champion buffed as well as their hardest counter nerfed. Our analysts have moved Sejuani up to the A tier, but do want to note that she's a champion who thrives in coordinated gameplay. If you're a jungler that duos with friends, then Sejuani might be the champion you want to pick up. Her stun is extremely straightforward, and having melee allies nearby sets up easy lockdowns. Next up, let's talk about the various shifts we've made to our tier list. Aside from the champions we just mentioned, we've also moved Olaf down to the A tier while moving up Echo into the S tier. Olaf's win rate actually dropped quite a bit last patch as a result of the Conqueror nerfs. This came as a surprise to most of us considering how quickly Olaf stacks up those stacks. However, Olaf relies heavily on using his sustain to turn fights around. The fact that Conqueror takes another attack to fully activate creates a larger window for opponents to burst him down. If they're on the run, this means that Olaf will have to land one more axe before he comes online. This has opened up some more counterplay. Bursty picks like Evelynn are finding more success against him, whereas they weren't really before. Echo has been moved because he's been gradually finding more success as well. Part of this is probably because once again Conqueror was nerfed last patch. Conqueror is the go-to keystone for a ton of junglers, and the fact that Echo made it through last patch without a nerf means that his relative power level has increased. He was dropped from the S tier a while back, but he's always remained a solid A tier pick. Finally, he's ready to return to his throne. Our S plus tier for the jungle consists of Fiddlesticks, Volibear, and Nunu, while our S tier consists of Lee Sin, Rek'Sai, Shaco, Elise, Warwick, Kayn, Evelynn, Nidalee, Wukong, Zac, Graves, and Echo. Like I said with Kha'Zix, a lot of these S tier picks are actually very, very good for carrying in the jungle role. However, a lot of them are quite difficult. If you're having trouble with them, go to ProGuides.com. We have a ton of resources as well as challenger coaches to help you out. I do have a couple of notes our analysts have for you guys for this patch. First up, if you're bronze or below, Master Yi is definitely S plus tier. I mean, that's been pretty obvious since the day that he was created, but in case any of you guys were in denial of it, our analysts felt a need to clarify that he is definitely S plus tier in those brackets. He's finding a decent amount of success across all ranks outside of Challenger and Grandmasters though, but his win rates in low elo are just phenomenal. Pick him up, he's very easy to play. Another champion that's finding immense success in low elo is Vi. She's a little less obvious, but her overall win rate was 52.5 last patch. That's actually pretty high. It's even higher in low elo when you consider that her win rate in Platinum and higher was actually slightly above 51%. Players in low elo can't really deal with her ultimate, so we heavily suggest you guys take advantage of this. Alright, that's it for the jungle. Now we're heading into the mid lane. First on the mid lane agenda is Karthus. Ironically, he hasn't made it to our mid lane tier list for a while now because he's been played as a jungler as of late. Riot has made changes to him this patch to push him back into his original role. His base health has been increased from 528 to 550 and also had his movement speed buffed from 325 to 335. Next, his Q damage went up from 45 to 125 plus 30% AP to 50 to 130 plus 35% AP. Finally, his E now restores mana at all times, whether or not it's toggled, and the damage will tick 4 times a second rather than 1 time a second. That last change was just to modernize him, but clearly every other change was a buff for him. Karthus has gotten a ton of changes to his system in the mid lane where he hasn't had a chance to succeed. He's felt too unsafe of a pick, and a lot of champions can bully him out of lane. We're leaving Karthus unrated as he's now going to be a relatively new pick to the mid lane. For reference, Karthus mid only saw 17,000 games last patch across all ranks. Comparatively to the jungle, he saw just short of 100,000. Our analysts want to observe how he performs in the mid lane for now, and then we'll make sure to give him a rating next week in our mid-patch update. Another buff in the mid lane is for Zed. His W's missile speed has been increased from 1750 to 2500, while his W's cooldown has been decreased from 22 to 14 to 20 to 14. These are huge buffs for Zed, as it'll allow him to use his W more aggressively and also use it for some more success. The fact that his shadow will travel faster means that his opponents will have even less time to react to his abilities than before. Especially when they're close, it'll be basically impossible for Zed's opponents to dodge his abilities. I know Red Mercy, who is now doing a lot of streaming on ProGuides, is going to love these changes. If he watches this video, please leave a comment. We will pin it, Dimitri. I'm very happy because I think you can actually probably hit Challenger this season with these new Zed changes. So this change basically means that opponents will have to predict where Zed will throw his Q rather than try to distance themselves and attempt to react to it. We're going to be keeping Zed in the S tier for now, but honestly, if you are a Zed main and you are in high elo, these changes actually could be huge for you, and he could potentially get into the S plus tier with these changes. We'll let you know next week. Finally, Pyke has received various balance changes intended to make him a weaker solo laner, but also a stronger duo laner. Pyke's magic resist per level has been decreased from 1.5 to 1.25, his armor per level from 5 to 3.5, and his W's movement speed from 40 to 60% to a flat 40%. His Q's cooldown has decreased from 12 to 8 seconds to 10 to 8 seconds, and its damage has gone up from 75 to 275 to 85 to 285. Finally, his E's damage was also buffed from 95 to 215 to 105 to 225. Long story short, Pyke isn't as tanky as before, but he deals some more damage now. Pyke's tankiness made him a little bit too sturdy in solo lanes. In spite of dealing more damage now, this won't matter for solo lane Pyke if he's not able to survive. Our analysts have moved Pyke down into the B tier because of how much resistances he's lost. Our mid lane's S plus tier will consist of Vladimir and Fizz. I'd suggest experimenting with Ghost on Vladimir this patch as well. The buffs look nice and Vladimir excels with some extra movement speed, especially if it's a single button press away. In our S tier, we have Talon, Cassiopeia, Kassadin, Katarina, Echo, Diana, Zed, Silas, Galio, Annie, Nocturne, and our newest member, Twisted Fate. The Ghost buffs especially should be enough for Twisted Fate to make his push into the S tier. He's been finding a ton of success in solo queue because of how effectively he can pressure the entire map. While Twisted Fate is simple and is outranged by many mid laners, it doesn't matter if he's able to port across the map and then pick up free kills on side lanes. A lot of players like to use Unsealed Spellbook on him, so even if you don't run Summoner Ghost as your primary summoner spell, you can still enjoy the benefits of it by choosing it sometimes during games you play Spellbook Twisted Fate. One final pick we suggest you guys really watch out for is Annie. Ghost on Annie is extremely strong, as this helps compensate for her low range. By running faster than her enemies, she's able to get in range of them and blow them up with her abilities. She's also very easy to play. Highly recommend her in low elo. That's it for the mid lane. Let's move to the bot lane. The first bottom lane nerf we need to go over is to Varus. These nerfs are pretty big. His Q's max damage ratio has been lowered from 150% to 125 to 145% based on rank. Also, the minimum damage has been lowered from 100% to 83 to 97%. Finally, his E's base damage has been decreased from 70 to 210 to 50 to 210. Varus relies heavily on his abilities, and yes, we know all champions do, but marksmen typically put a lot more weight on their basic attacks. As a more spell-oriented ADC, these nerfs really hurt Varus. Although Varus is a highly contested competitive pick and a powerful one in very high elo as well, the majority of players probably don't pick him at the moment. These nerfs are huge for most players, and you're going to be better off picking up other lane bullies instead. We've moved Varus down into the C tier accordingly. The next nerf is to Ezreal. He's been one of the strongest marksmen in the game for many patches now. His E's cooldown has been increased from 25 to 13 to 28 to 16. This hits Ezreal's biggest strength, his safety and his reliability. A longer cooldown on his main escape tool means that Ezreal would be easier to take down during teamfights. This also hurts his laning phase as well, so don't underrate this nerf. There are going to be times during the laning phase where you need to use your E to trade more effectively, whether it's to deal more damage or to dodge the enemy's abilities. Sometimes it's to avoid ganks as well. 3 more seconds is a long time to wait, and Ezreal's opponents will have much larger windows to capitalize on this cooldown. We've moved Ezreal down from the S+ tier to the S tier as a result, but our analyst will keep you guys updated next week. He could honestly go even farther down, who knows. Thus, for our S+ tier, we only have Kai'Sa. And in the S tier, we have Vayne, Caitlyn, Jinx, Jhin, Draven, Ashe, and Ezreal. Jhin is looking like a more and more promising pick. He's always been known as a pretty dominant laner, and with a bunch of lane bullies receiving nerfs in the past couple of patches, he's starting to come out on top. While his win rate in Platinum and higher is mildly impressive at 51%, it's extremely impressive in low elo. Last patch, Jhin ended with a 52% win rate overall, but saw win rates as high as 55% in Challenger. Don't sleep on him, he might be the next utility marksman to replace Varus following his nerfs. That's it for the bottom lane, so let's finish off with support. For supports, we only have one change this patch, and that's to Alistar. Alistar's Q has been buffed this patch. The cooldown has been reduced from 17 to 13 seconds to 15 to 11 seconds. This is arguably his most important ability, sometimes even more than his ultimate. Shaving off 2 seconds is a pretty big deal, as it'll now have a 6.5 second cooldown at max rank with a 40% cooldown reduction. With Cosmic Insight, this cooldown goes all the way down to 6 seconds. 6 seconds on an AoE knockup, well, that's pretty massive. That's like having a mini Malphite ultimate every 6 seconds. I'm sure Alistar players appreciate these buffs a lot, as it'll allow them to play more aggressively, which more frequently during the laning phase will give them a huge impact during extended teamfights. This buff is juicy, and our analysts are making a bold move, placing him into the S tier. With no other changes to supports, our analysts feel like the same tier list from our mid-patch update video in patch 10.13 still accurately reflects the current state of the game, aside from our Alistar shift. Thus, our S+ tier consists of Blitzcrank, Senna, Soraka, Lulu, and Barb. Our S tier consists of Thresh, Nautilus, Morgana, Nami, Janna, Leona, and Alistar. A lot of these top tier champions sport pretty high ban rates. If you want champions who are strong without those high ban rates, our analysts have a short list that they've narrowed down for you guys. Low ban rate supports from our S tiers include Bard, Nami, and Janna. Aside from them, our analysts also suggest picking up Sona for all elos, or Zyra if you're in low elo. Zyra's high damage output allows her to dominate the laning phase and snowball off her leads, allowing her to slowly transition into a secondary or primary AP carry. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up our 10.4 patch rundown video. Once again, for any of you guys who have been affected by what has happened to Reckful and the Twitch community, ProGuides is here for you guys. Please join us on Discord and find some friends to duo with or to create a constructed 5. Everyone is super nice on our Discord. And for all of you guys who are interested in playing other games like Valorant or Smash Bros or TFT, you can find our other YouTube channels out there as well. Consider subscribing to them if you're interested in that type of content. And again, if you guys are interested in getting better at League of Legends, ProGuides.com or our app in the App Store is a great way for you guys to get started. We have the best community. We love you all. Have a great day, and good luck in your next few games.